Democrats hate poor people and middle class people and rich people. They pretty much hate everybody. There's an old saying that the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and I truly believe that to be true. And more often than not, the people that set you onto the road to hell are Democrats. This is coal. Some people live their whole lives and never see it, but this is what it looks like. It's a little chunk of coal. Coal produces the majority of the electricity in the United States. Whether you like it or you don't like it, that's just the way it is. It's a fact. And I would say that coal produces the majority of electricity on this entire planet. It's very true. This little piece of black rock that I have in my hand represents money. It represents money to the state, to the federal government, and to people like me who own it. Now, Kentucky, and I'm going to use Kentucky as an example, okay, but this pretty much applies across the board with Democrats. Kentucky now has a Democrat as a governor, and they have had for a little while now. And one of the first things that this Democrat did was tax the unmined coal in Kentucky. Now, Kentucky has had for a very long time what they call an unmined minerals tax, or referred to also as an unmined coal tax. They've had this for a long time. But under the Republicans, it was never enforced. Now, Democrats thought, well, hell, we've got all that coal in the ground and, we should really be taxing it. Which, I've never really understood that. They just love to tax things, thinking that they're going to raise money for the poor. So they use as an excuse, we need an incentive for people to get the minerals out of the ground because therefore we need it out of the ground so we can make money, blah, 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 blah. Well, bottom line, this is where the road to hell really takes you on a really, really bad trip. They tax me for my coal that I've not gotten out of the ground yet. But they make it very, very difficult to get it out of the ground. I mean, they throw all kinds of roadblocks in your way. I mean, you have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on environmental impact studies. God forbid you have an Indiana brown bat or one of those black minnows. Oh, you're screwed at that point. But you still have to pay your unmined minerals tax. So they tax you while it's in the ground. Then they tax you as you bring it out of the ground. And then, of course, ultimately, as I spend my royalties for the coal, they tax me once again. So it's all about taxing you. Now, for those people out there who think to themselves, well, here's a guy with coal and he's complaining about taxes, of course he is. But here's where it screws the poor people. Two ways. One is, as you tax this material, you have to understand that that money gets passed along. For example, the coal company is just going to have to charge more for the coal. I mean, it's just a fact. The power companies that buy the coal pay more for it. They actually don't eat it. They pass it on in the form of higher utility rates. So your electricity bill goes up. Okay, so that's kind of like, a shared tax, you might say. But here's where it gets really ugly. People like me, I can afford the tax on this coal. No big deal. The people that cannot afford it are the poor people. And you say, well, what, poor people with coal? Yeah, poor people with coal. And I'm going to use a fictional character to try to illustrate my point here. His name's going to be Jed. Jed owns 10 acres that he inherited from his father, So it's been in the family for 3 generations, 10 acres. 10 acres of mountainous property, maybe some decent timber on it. For the most part, it's a homestead. And maybe he's got a chicken coop, a hog sty. Jed's not a wealthy man by any stretch of the imagination. But he's got 10 acres of land that he pays his property taxes every year. But this year it's going to be a little different. In December, Jed's going to open up his mailbox and he's going to find an additional bill. And this bill will be for unmined coal. Because Jed, living in a coal-bearing region of Kentucky, happens to have a little coal on his property. And, let's just say that bill is $1,500. Well, Jed's not a rich man. In fact, he can't pay the $1,500, so he's going to do what he can do, which is not pay it. Maybe he never had to pay it under the Republicans. This is kind of new. And plus, Jed doesn't think he should have to pay it because he never intends on getting the coal out. It's just some coal. It's a ribbon of coal through his property. You know, maybe he doesn't want to mine the coal because, hey, maybe it's not worth a ton of money. Maybe it's a low-grade coal. To the state, it doesn't matter. It's coal. Maybe Jed's an environmentalist. Doesn't believe in tearing up the earth to extract this stuff. But for whatever reason, Jed cannot afford the tax, the unmined coal tax. So what happens is the county that Jed lives in, that sheriff puts up his lien for sale. So now they're going to sell Jed's $1,500 tax lien against his coal. Somebody comes in and they buy that. Now you may ask, why would they buy that? Because they're never going to get that money out of Jed. Well, it's simple. They don't care if they ever get the money out of Jed. It's not the point to them. The point is that for whatever reason they want Jed's property. Maybe they want it for the timber, maybe they want it for the coal, or maybe they just want it. So the sheriff eventually will be approached by the person that bought the tax lien. After, by the way, he's added interest and penalties and all kinds of stuff. So that $1,500 tax bill that Jed initially had, now is like $4,000 or $5,000. So that guy goes to the courthouse and asks the judge to auction off Jed's property, the property that's been in Jed's family for 3 generations. And of course, the judge is going to say, yeah, you have a right to try to recover your losses, what's owed to you, and I will tell the master commissioner to auction off the property. So the guy goes to the courthouse steps where the master commissioner is auctioning it off. Of course, Jed, his wife, and his kids are there. They're all crying because they know they can't do anything about it, but they're about to see their whole lives change. And the guy buys it. And let's say for a pittance, because cash is king on the courthouse steps, and only so many people have cash. So now the property that's been in Jed's family for 3 generations now belongs to Mr. X. And Mr. X, the first thing he does is he says to Jed, you got to go. Now Jed has to go live in some kind of government housing because, Jed's not a rich man. So the taxpayers are now paying for Jed to live. And the guy that actually owns Jed's property, the first thing he's going to do is try to recoup his investment, so he cuts all the timber off of it. Smart move. And then he maybe contracts with a coal company or maybe an oil and gas company. But this guy gets wealthy. But Jed is what he's always been. He's poor. It's just now he has a whole lot less. So the Democrats have created one more tax burden, which is Jed and his family, because now they're living off the government dole, and have put more money into the pocket of a wealthy individual or company. So any way you look at this scenario, the Democrats have always engaged in tax policy that will do nothing but hurt poor people and middle class people. I mean, everything that I'm telling you right now is verifiable. You go to any county sheriff in the coal-bearing regions of Kentucky, Bell County, Knox County, Pike County, Harlan County, there's a ton of counties in Kentucky that are coal-bearing counties. And you will see on the sheriff's homepage tax liens, for unmined coal and for, I'm sure, for back taxes on property too. So once again, the poor get screwed under the Democrats. Look it up, check it out, it's a fact, and this is why I am a fiscal conservative. Believe it or not, the poor people will always do much better under Republicans than they will under a Democrat. And the middle class, for sure, will always do better under a Republican than they will under a Democrat. The Democrats in Kentucky are destroying the poor over this, destroying them. And that's just the way it is, And you can apply this to a national level because guaranteed there will be a shitload of taxes coming down the pike that you've never even heard of. And the poor people will pay. The poor people will pay. It's just the way it is. So, anyway, give me some feedback. I'll be interested to hear what everybody's got to say.